Welcome to the Inspired by Jacqueline podcast, a refreshing place for women struggling with entrepreneurship, faith, or infertility. Stay tuned for today's episode. Welcome again to Inspired by Jacqueline podcast. I have an awesome guest that we're going to have a really in-depth conversation on fertility journey. So stay tuned for our conversation. But first, let me introduce her. Her name is Becky Ackerman, and Becky is a fertility mindset coach. She helps women who are struggling to conceive feel calm, confident, and in control. Wow. Whew, those three things. We're definitely going to chat about that. But in control as they move through their journeys. Becky began her coaching career as a personal trainer and health coach. But after her own long and emotional experience with fertility problems, she realized that she was most interested in helping women, as yourselves, have a less bad fertility journey. Wow. Becky, welcome. And is there anything else you want to add to that?
No, just thank you for having me, Jacqueline. I'm excited to talk to you today.
Awesome. I am so excited to have this conversation with Becky today. Before we start on everything, Becky, how do you start your mornings?
So it depends. My mornings start in many different ways. In an ideal world, every morning starts out with me getting up and exercising because I got into personal training because I'm an exercise fanatic. That's my number one form of stress release, and it always has been. And so I like to start my mornings that way, but there are a couple things. First of all, I do now have 3 children, all of whom I have to get ready and out the door in the morning. Mm-hmm. So depending on what's going on there, as well as did I get to bed at the right time the night before, coupled with the fact that I also play a lot of tennis. And so on days when I know that I'm going to go play tennis for a long time, I don't always make my morning exercise a priority so that my legs feel maybe a little bit fresher for my time on the court. But that's how I like to start it. It definitely always starts with pushing people out the door, making lunches and that kind of thing.
Well, that's a burst of energy. It's like, okay, I'm up, but now I got to do all the rest. So let's get this ready. And so I love how you said, in an ideal world, what does, I know we're having this conversation on a fertility myths and journey. I'm going to ask you a question, but I want to add that word in there, ideal world, right? So let's talk about fertility myths and in an ideal world, whatever that means, and how that impacts the mindset of motherhood and womanhood.
So the first thing, when you say fertility myth to me, honestly, the first thing that pops into my mind is have unprotected sex and you'll get pregnant. Because that's what we're all taught, right? That's what we're taught in school. And from a certain standpoint, that makes good sense because that's what you want to teach kids, since you don't want 16, 17, 18-year-olds out there getting pregnant. But the truth of it is not that simple at all. And that for a totally healthy woman in her 20s with 0 fertility issues, her chances of getting pregnant in any given month are only around 20%. And so even for somebody who has no problems and never will have problems, it could still take many months before she gets pregnant. And then as you get older, that number just naturally starts to drop. So that's something that we are not taught, and it creates a lot of tension, a lot of impatience, a lot of misunderstanding, really, of how the process works. Because, I mean, most of us really just think, well, I'm ready to have a baby. It's going to take me 1 month. This is easy.
Exactly.
And because we're not all aware of that fact, I think that sometimes there's a tendency to sort of start to put ourselves into the infertility category mentally before there's a reason to go there. It puts a lot of undue pressure on us. And when you understand that the reality is, okay, well, maybe if I just sit back and I just wait and see what happens, sometimes what you want to happen will.
And I love how you shared that myth. For me, it was like, close your legs, make sure no sex, no nothing. Don't even look at a guy. You'll get pregnant, all these myths. And those myths make the assumption that you can get pregnant immediately, right?
Correct.
And so for me, I didn't have any issues with my menstrual cycle. It was heavy sometimes, it was not others, but I know other women who have worse problems with their menstrual, and then they are able to find out that they have issues, right? Earlier than later. But for those like myself, I didn't have a doctor telling me, oh, you might have potential issues in the future. And then starting this platform and doing some research, it's like, baby girl, you're born with so many eggs, right? And then as you grow and you're in your preteens or teens, those eggs, part of those, you're born with millions, and then you're left with 100,000 or 200,000, right? And then when you get into young adulthood, that goes down.
Number keeps going down.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And how do you feel that impacts, not just as a mother, but also as a woman, the mindset?
Well, so when you expect that it's going to be very easy for you to get pregnant, and then it's not, or you perceive that it's not, whether before you even know if there's an issue or not, then immediately we jump into the place of, what's wrong with me?
Yes.
Why can't I do this thing that, when you're trying for it and you look out into the world, it seems like everybody is pregnant, even though that's not the case. But when you're in that position, all you see are pregnant women.
You see that.
And why is everybody else able to do this except me? What is wrong? And then as time goes on, things get more negative. What did I do to deserve this? Clearly, I'm not worthy. All of the negative self-talk that can then make it even harder. It's like you're digging yourself into a hole, and the further down you dig, the more difficult it becomes to get yourself back out of it.
And I can testify that that's where I was. My hole kept on getting deeper and deeper and deeper, darker. So with that, like, when did you learn about your fertility challenges? And can you share, if you want, about your journey and who you were before and who you became after all that process was happening?
So before, I was just an average person who, had been married for a while, and we decided that it was time to have a baby. And I thought it'll be easy, just like everybody, because I didn't know about that 20% number either. I had no idea. I was just like, it'll be super easy. I went off birth control, and because there's another piece of that myth is that coming off birth control, doctors sometimes will tell you that you need to wait like 3 months before your cycle regulates. But that's not always true. Some women need significantly longer. But in any case, I came off birth control, and, we sort of officially started trying about 4 months after that. And I, like many other people, jumped the gun. And after about 4 cycles, I wasn't pregnant, and I was starting to get anxious. Like, why isn't this happening? Something must be wrong. Now, was it intuition or just impatience? I think at that point it was probably just impatience, because there was no real sign that there would be anything wrong. So I was seeing a doctor for a couple of other things, and she was like, just keep trying. And then in about 9 months, I'm not really sure, I don't remember why she agreed to start the testing at 9 months and didn't make me wait until a full year. But we did all the blood work. It all came back fine. And then she had me go for a hysterosalpingogram. which for anybody who doesn't know, they inject dye into your uterus so that they can look at the shape of your uterus, and then you can see if the fluid spills over into your fallopian tubes and out of your fallopian tubes.
And I just want to insert in there. Oh my gosh, that's all I have to say. My tears are literally coming out right now from the memories.
I just actually had this conversation with somebody else last week. I had two of them in my journey. Neither one of them. The second one was a little bit worse than the first one, but the first one was like a nothing for me.
Oh no.
And that is not the experience I know that so many women have with it.
I had the worst experience twice. I did them twice and I said, that's it. Find another way to do whatever you need to do to find out. But this is the last one that I'm doing. It was like I felt my whole internal self was coming out.
So I went in and I had it done, and it came back showing that my left fallopian tube was at least partially blocked. You could see a little bit of fluid kind of trickling out of it, but not nearly as much as there should have been. But the woman that I was seeing at the time said, don't do anything with it. We just leave it. Your other tube is good. If we go in and do any sort of surgery, we run the risk of making it worse, creating more scar tissue, creating adhesions. So it turns out that that's actually terrible advice, but we'll get to that in a minute. So we kept going. And at one point, maybe a month or two after that, I was back to see her for something else. And we were talking about it. And she gave me a referral to a reproductive specialist and said, I don't want to see you again until you are pregnant. I mean, without humor, without a smile, she was like, out of my office, I am done with you.
Wow. So
I went to see this other woman, and when I walked in and checked in at the reception desk, she handed me a welcome packet that was menopause magazines and parenting magazines. So that set a real negative tone for that appointment. I was very turned off by that. And in fact, as I sat in the waiting room, debated about whether I wanted to stay or go. Ultimately, I stayed for the appointment. I did not like the doctor, and that was the last time I ever saw her. So a friend of mine was seeing a gynecologist. He was just a gynecologist who she really liked, but she said, go see him. He's a really nice guy. Just go. So I went. He was a really nice guy. Fertility was not his thing at all. He said, well, let's just try some medicated cycles. So we did a couple cycles with Clomid, a couple with letrozole. He didn't do any monitoring, so we have no idea what was happening in my body. We just knew that at the end of the cycle, I wasn't pregnant. And after like 3 or 4 months, he was like, okay, I've done everything for you that I know how to do. So I'm going to send you somewhere else. And he sent me to a reproductive endocrinologist who was excellent, who I clicked with immediately. I really liked him. And so at this point, we were about 2.5, 3 years into our journey, because I was young-ish. And so things were moving kind of slowly, because I was sort of holding out hope that maybe I'll just get pregnant without having to do anything. My husband traveled a lot for his job. So there was that. We had scheduling issues. But I went and I saw this guy, and he said, okay, we're going to rerun all of your tests. And so we did. The blood work was still fine. But again, the hysterosalpingogram came back as one tube. This time it was even more blocked. And he said, the only thing we can do is open you up and take a look and see what's going on inside. So we did that. That was just short of the 3-year mark.
Wow.
And surprise, surprise, I had endometriosis.
Oh, wow.
Like bad endometriosis.
Wow.
And I never had a symptom. Like none of the classic symptoms that you think of when you think of endometriosis. I had none of it. So that was a huge surprise. And most likely as a result of the endometriosis, my left tube was completely filled with fluid and gunked up with adhesions. So in the middle of surgery, he came out and asked my husband if he could just take that tube out. But before I went in for surgery, I had told my husband that I would very much appreciate it if nothing is removed, because I want to be able to give my own consent if something has to come out.
Right.
Now, it never occurred to me that it would be something sort of minor. I mean, a fallopian tube's a big deal, but it's small.
Right.
In my head, it was more like he's going to need to do a hysterectomy.
Right.
Which I definitely did not want done. And so it would not have been awful had they removed it. But he said, okay, that's what she wants. Fine. So he drained it and he pinned it open. And he also found a fibroid that I didn't know I'd had. So he took that out. He cleaned out all the endometriosis. And at that point, he said, okay, so everything is open. Everything is good. So you've got probably a 6 to 12 month window before that tube fills up again. And the thing about a fluid-filled fallopian tube is that the fluid continually washes into your uterus. So that even if an egg and a sperm meet and it fertilizes and then travels down into your uterus, it can't implant. It's impossible because it's going to wash it out. So we went off for 3 cycles and tried on our own and nothing happened. And we came back in and we said, okay, we're ready to try some IUI, some intrauterine insemination now. The first cycle was a bust. I ovulated spontaneously before the trigger shot. So I went in for one of the monitoring appointments and he was like, oh, it's too late. Like there's nothing to be done now. And then in the middle of the second round, I was in for a monitoring appointment and he was looking at the ultrasound and he was like, what? I can't. Oh yeah, your tube is filled up again. So it took about 7 months before it filled up again. And so 9 months after the first surgery, I went in for a second one to have the tube taken out. And at that point, the doctor said to me, okay, so the problem is now completely eliminated. However, you only have one fallopian tube. And so it is probably going to be difficult for you to get pregnant on your own. Okay. Words the doctor spoke, words I heard, words I took on, I internalized. But being the optimist, I said, nope, we're still going to go try on our own. We're going to go. So we went for a few more months and nothing happened. Went back, tried a couple more IUIs and nothing. I mean, I wasn't responding to the medicine. I was producing like 1 egg. And at that point he said, okay, I think that you should move on to IVF. I think you'd be a really great candidate. Like that's my favorite phrase that doctors say. You'd be a great candidate for IVF. And I did not want to for several reasons. The first is obviously it's so expensive.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, sure, we could have done one without a problem, but it frequently takes more than one. And I didn't want to get myself into a position where it was like, well, we've already done one and it didn't work, but we were so close. Let's just do another and then another. I didn't want to go down that road. I also thought that would be really disappointing to go through all that. I mean, disappointing is like an understatement.
Yes.
And I don't know. And thirdly, the visual that I had in my head with the IUI was like I was banging my head against a brick wall, and that trying IVF was going to be like me banging my head even harder against that wall. That was really, I don't know where that image came from, but I had that image in my head the whole time. So very coincidentally, at really just about the very same time, we found out that my husband's job was transferring us. And so I said, okay, well, this is great. I'm going to take a break. We've got 6 more months where we are now, and I'm just going to take them and enjoy them.
Yep.
So we moved in June, at which point it had been 5.5 years. This was at the 5.5 year mark when we moved. And we got settled. And I was like, okay, I think I want to try some different things. Like, I really didn't want to go find another reproductive endocrinologist. It just didn't feel worth it to me at that point. And so I found a woman who did Mayan abdominal massage because, I knew that I only had one fallopian tube. I knew my uterus was tilted just a little bit. And so the whole idea of this massage technique is to make sure that everything is aligned properly.
Right.
And so I thought, okay, well, I'll give this a try and see what it's like. And she also did some light herbalism and acupuncture. So we did a little bit of that. And I started seeing a hypnosis practitioner at the same time. And that was really amazing, more than any shake that I took or any massage that I did. That was amazing. And then I also started seeing an acupuncture. And so I started all that like in July, and I started seeing the hypnosis practitioner in August. And by February of the next year, I was pregnant. So at exactly the 6-year mark, I was finally pregnant.
Wow. What was your emotional state at that point?
Shock, disbelief.
But as you were going through like the massages, the hypnosis, like what was your, compared to going to a doctor?
Oh, totally different. I had already, that 6-month break was good for me in so many ways. It allowed me to decompress a little bit because everything had been about having a baby or trying to have a baby, or what are we going to do now, or who am I going to see, or how are we going to manage this event or that event, with the people with the babies. And just everything changed to the point where actually one of my good friends got pregnant, and I was like, oh, great. I mean, I'm excited for her. I don't think that I'm upset. I'm sure, yes, if I dig for it, I'm jealous, but okay, she's pregnant. And I went to her baby shower and I was like, this feels okay. So a lot of things had shifted. And one of the things that the hypnosis practitioner, we kind of worked on a little bit, that I now do work on with my clients, is what would your life look like if you don't ever have children? Because the answer for most of us, when you start digging around for it, is that there's a lot I could do.
Oh, yes, there is. I think for me, I would have answered at that point, I don't know, because I couldn't. But once I was able to say that's it, and I started to see all the possibilities.
Yeah, because I think that once you do, a lot of things happen, both in your mind and your body. Once you realize that you could be okay, and there are other ways that you can go and other things that you can do that will give you a wonderful, happy life, that takes so much pressure off, which for a lot of women will sort of jumpstart the process. I mean, look, I know nobody likes these stories of women who decide they're going to adopt, and like 2 months after they get the baby, they find out they're pregnant naturally. I know these are the women that everybody loves to hate, but there's a reason. It's because we build up so much pressure. And once that pressure is relieved, your body, in many cases, is able to do what it needs to do.
Right.
Now, that is certainly not the situation for everyone, for sure. And I understand that. And I understand that I got extremely lucky. But I do think it's really important for women to understand that the stress, the pressure, the anxiety has an impact, not only on the physical, but also on the mental.
Right.
And that there's always life beyond motherhood and babies.
Yeah. And before you even took that break and your husband transferred to this other, I would say whole different world for you, right?
It was.
Which allow you to then engage in the wellness that you needed to take for you to then get you to the level of success with what you were wanting. Before that, what was helping you through each month when you got your cycle and it was like, what?
Oh man, it's hard to say looking back on it. I mean, it was my husband mostly.
Yeah.
My mother, I called my mother a lot. I didn't talk about it with very many people because
Mm.
most of us don't, because there weren't a lot of people that I knew in my life who would understand what it was and
Mm.
what it felt like. But also, once you once you tell someone, sometimes they feel like, well, it's okay now for me to ask questions and for me to check in. And I didn't want that. I didn't want to have to keep people updated on my progress or my situation or what we were trying now. I just wanted to be, we were, for the 5.5 years of our journey, we were actually living in Puerto Rico.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and that was good on many, many levels. First of all, I had the beach, because the beach is
Sounds and everything.
100% my happy place, always and always. But also, I was far distant from all of my friends and
That's
all
okay.
of my family. So I wasn't being invited to baby showers, and I wasn't having to hang out with people's kids, which it was very easy to just let friendships kind of float away.
Yeah.
And they did. They definitely did. And some of them I have been able to rekindle, and others are just gone, which
Right.
is a sad side effect of fertility problems for, I think, most of us.
Right.
You can't, there's only so much you can take. And
Yeah,
you
totally.
got to put up your boundaries. And if I can't see the emails from you or respond to them, then I'm just not
Yeah.
going to.
Yeah. And I know you said that they found that it was endometriosis that was causing all of this. Being now, and we're going to shift over to what you do, but before that, what are the different types of fertility challenges? Just a few.
So there are issues. So about 30% of all fertility problems occur with a woman. Another 30% are on the man's side. And then that other 30%, 30 to 40%, is either a combination of the man and the woman, or it's totally unexplained. So for a woman, there are physical, structural problems, sort of like I had, where the tube is blocked, or the uterus, in some cases, can have a weird shape that can affect whether an egg is able to implant. There are ovulatory problems, which are often also hormonal problems, imbalances, so that you're either not ovulating regularly, or you're not ovulating. You're not producing good quality eggs that are being ovulated. It's a lot of things like that. Those are the two basic categories: the physical, and then sort of the hormonal chemical.
Yeah. And I was in that last percentage of unexplained.
It's like 30%.
Yeah. It was like every test, whatever it was completely unexplained.
And I also, after they cleared out the endometriosis, in those 3 years where I still wasn't getting pregnant, that was where I got dumped in unexplained. Yeah, there is so much that is not understood about any of this, all of this.
Yeah. And I think that's where the part of not 100% of understanding and having all of the answers, right? Then the second part is not enough conversation. And so, what sparked your journey as a fertility mindset coach, which now I have a whole idea of just you sharing your story as far as why that word mindset, but I want you to share, what sparked that journey and explain the concept and how this is meant to help women.
Okay, so in order to get you the whole picture, we have to talk about the second time I tried to get pregnant.
Okay.
So about 14 months after my first child was born, we decided, okay, we want to have a second. It took us so long before, let's start now. And I got pregnant immediately.
Wow.
But then at 6 weeks, I miscarried. And it was fine. I mean, miscarriage means different things to different people. This one was a nothing for me because, first off, I had already decided, for a long time, I never thought I was going to get any children.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had one and I was thrilled, and I was not going to be greedy about it. If that was all I ever got, it was going to be fine. But the other thing was I got pregnant so quickly. Surely I'll get pregnant again. Fast forward 15 months and I still was not pregnant again. And we'd rerun. I'd gone back to the doctor and she ran more tests. Nope, everything looks good. And one day like the epiphany, I'm not doing any of the visualization exercises. I'm not meditating. I'm not doing any of that stuff that I did before I finally got pregnant the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started it that night, and my next cycle, I was pregnant. And so that for me was like the big light bulb moment of, okay, I see how this works. And just to take it one step further, we then decided to have a third child. And before we even started trying, I started doing all of the exercises and got pregnant immediately. So I want to just say again that I fully acknowledge that I was very, very lucky, and that not everybody's experience looks like that or will look like that. But the mindset piece is so important for two different reasons. The first is that your brain is the leader, and it tells your body through chemical messages what you want it to do. And when you are stressed, anxious, fearful, your body knows it. And your body releases a whole different set of hormones that are 100% counter to the reproductive hormones that you want. And it can make it hard or harder. It may not be the cause, but if you're already having trouble, you're compounding it with that. Okay, so there's the physical part of it, but then there's the mental part of it, where when you're negative and you're talking negatively to yourself in your head all the time. I mean, if somebody walked around behind you all the time going, hey, you're never going to get pregnant. Hey, guess what? Not going to have a baby. You would turn around and punch that person out. I mean, no joke. But we do it to ourselves all the time. So mindset work is about, in large part, fixing how you talk to yourself so that you're not dragging yourself down further, so that you're propping yourself up. And to be clear, it's not about being a super positive, sunshine and rainbows all the time person, but it's about being neutral, almost open to whatever the experience is going to be, open to the possibility that maybe I will be able to get pregnant, open to the possibility that if I don't get pregnant, things will be okay and my life will go on. It's a hard journey to be on. And so you don't want to be making it worse for yourself.
Yeah.
It's already hard. That component is already there and you don't need to add to it.
And that's where, when I finally said that's it, I need it, because I was so lost, so emotionally lost. I was like, I need to find who I am. I lost sight of who I was. And, through my faith and everything like that, I just held on to that. But I was able to say to myself, okay, if yes, I looked into adoption, but then I saw where I was emotionally and mentally, and I was like, I can't. I was like, I need to find myself. And, if we need to circle back and look into it or whatnot afterwards, I was like, maybe. But for now, I can't take another emotional step, similar to what you said with IVF. Because every single type of test, even before you get to that IUI, just with the Clomid, the cycle comes, and then it's a whole depressive state right there, right? Then Clomid, oh, there's an opportunity. and then another opportunity, and then another. So all of what you're saying resonates with me because the mindset, oh my gosh, like I just had to release. And then I was then okay once I took a break and, really had a conversation with my husband at the time and all that. It's like, I'm done right now because I needed to find myself. I needed to have an emotional break, that I am so happy that I did that because I was losing it. I completely
Yeah.
losing it. Yes.
Yeah, we, and even beyond that, we put our lives on hold
Yes.
for this. And that is something I just going to jump up on my soapbox for half a minute here and say, don't do it. Resist that urge. If
Yes.
you want to plan a vacation, plan the vacation. Buy the trip insurance so that if by chance you end up pregnant and you have to cancel it, fine. You hate your job? Look for a new job.
Exactly.
I know that it's awkward to start a job and 2 weeks later say, hey, by the way, I'm pregnant. I know that's not looked upon favorably, but would you rather have that problem, or would you rather be stuck in a job that you hate while you still don't have a baby? I really encourage everybody, live your life through it,
Yes.
despite it.
Yes.
Because you can lose yourself. And sometimes just making one simple change, even taking a class, saying to yourself, okay, I don't like this job. I'm not comfortable enough. I don't have the security to actually leave it right now, but I know that when I leave it, this is what I want to do. And I can take a class right now that will better prepare me for that. Do that.
Yes.
Just keep yourself moving forward in whatever way that you can.
Yeah. And that's reshifting your mind, right? That's the whole deal with the mindset.
Yeah.
And then again, you mentioned, and like everyone's situation is different. You were in Puerto Rico, so you weren't so close to people and the conversations and all that stuff. Whereas for me, I'm thankful that my mom was very understanding and didn't pressure me with questions. But like she came from a family of 9, and my father came from a family of 15, and then my cousins were having babies. So there were all the questions. And I told my mom one day, like, speak to the family, please have them ask no more. That's it. I don't want to hear it. Like, let me just be, let me live my life, and that's that. And so that started being better, and just having a conversation with, friends or people from the church and things like that. I'm just wanted to be in a different mindset, and I created that, and that helped me. So I definitely understand that whether it's a mindset shift where you can get pregnant, or a mindset shift that will help you find yourself again, whatever it is, it's better than where you are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's chat about the conversation that should be had and how everyone can be a part of the change.
Well, I think there are a lot of conversations. And I think one of the big conversations is, what else can I try, either in conjunction with, or maybe I want to take a break and do something else instead of traditional fertility treatments? Because and this is not a negative. Please don't anybody misunderstand me. I think that reproductive endocrinologists, fertility specialists, I think the work that they do is extremely valuable. And without them, I would not have ultimately been able to have my children. But they are trained in a specific toolkit. And so if you go to them, those are the tools they will offer you. They will offer you IUI. They will offer you IVF. And it makes sense because that is what they are trained to do.
Right.
But there are lots of other things out there that can support you. In some cases, depending on what the problem is, maybe it's that alone is enough to get you over the hump. But I think that is a place where conversation is for sure lacking. What else is out there? What else should I be doing? Where can I get support? Because we've already talked about this a little bit, didn't want to talk about it with anybody. And that makes sense. But sometimes finding a neutral, like disinterested third party is really, really helpful, because sometimes your partner does not want to talk about it with you anymore because you haven't stopped talking about it for the last 4 days, and they can't do it.
That causes strain. Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes your mother says something stupid and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't, like, how did she just say that? I can't talk to her about this anymore. You know, and your friends who are maybe having babies right now, you don't want to talk to them about it. So there has to be somebody, because it really, and I, for the most part, did it alone because I didn't know who else to talk to. But once I finally found a couple people, it makes a really big difference. The more support you can have in your corner, and not people who are calling you every day, but for you to reach out to when you need something.
So what about also communication from, let's say, friends or family? Let's say if they see that you got married, or they knew that you were going to try to start and they don't see anything, what would be questions, or not even questions, how should they approach being a true friend or a true support?
So that's really tricky. It is really tricky. And I think in general, I would never just ask the question.
Perfect.
I would wait. If your friend or your relative makes sort of a leading comment, then it's appropriate to say something like, I'm always here to listen. Whenever, if you ever need to talk, I am always here to listen. And just leave it. Don't ask questions. Just wait for the information to come. If it's going to come, it will come. And if it doesn't, then it means the other person doesn't want to tell you.
Yes. And you answered it perfectly, because it's true. It's different for everybody. And that's why you started it the way you did, right? Because it's so different for everyone, and it's a tricky conversation. And it's for us, let's say the world, the stereotype of, oh, what do you mean? You just got married. Why aren't you pregnant? Like, those aren't questions. You really have to take a step back and really hear yourself ask that question.
Yeah.
Oh, I just asked that person, why aren't you pregnant yet? Like, oh my gosh. And then that starts questioning that insensitivity of the question. So I am so for just feel it out. And if you're a true friend, you're patient, and you understand who your friend is, who that person that's going through it. If they don't have a child, there's something happening. Just put that in your mind, and that alone for me should just kind of refrain you from asking a question, but just saying enough that, I'm here. If you need anything, just let me know.
Yeah. And, another thing, and I've told this, like a couple of my mom's friends have come to me and said, I know my kids are having trouble. They don't want to reach out to you. What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to talk to them? And so a couple times I've said to them, okay, so they've already given you some information and you're struggling with, like, how much can I ask? How often can I ask? Just be blunt with them and say, look, you've told me a little bit and I want to know how I can support you. Do you want me to ask? Do you want me not to ask? How would you like me to deal with this? Because letting them set the boundaries for you, it's perfect, because then you're not going to offend, you're not going to irritate, you're not going to upset them. And boundaries are important.
Yeah, so true. So how often do you take a break or have a mental wellness check-in?
Probably not as often as I should. But I would say a mental wellness check-in of some sort, probably every day. That's often my exercise time.
Okay.
Is really how I use that. Other times when I catch myself with that sort of frenetic feeling, I don't know but like I've been running to do all this stuff.
Yes.
That's my cue that I need to stop for a minute and breathe and relax a little bit. Yeah.
And if you had one superpower, what would that be?
Yeah, that's a really tough question. It might be to fly. I think it would be really amazing to
Is
be able
it
to
fly for just relaxation or fly to get to everywhere like right away?
no, fly just to see what everything looks like from up above.
Oh, that's nice.
Because when you're in an airplane, everything looks really different. And I think it would be very cool to be able to just kind of go when I want to.
Yeah, no, that's so true. What is the biggest takeaway that you want my listeners to take away from our conversation today?
My biggest takeaway would be that the mental aspect of your fertility journey is just as important as the physical. It can be your best friend or your worst enemy as you go through this.
And so, is there something that you want to add? I know you mentioned to me you have a fertility mindset bundle. Can you share a little bit about that?
I do, sure. So, if you're not quite sure what it means to work on mindfulness or your mindset, I've created like a little starter packet with a guided meditation that's between 10 and 15 minutes long, just focused on relaxation. 2 journaling exercises. One of them is about control and the things that you can control totally, the things you can control sort of, and the things you cannot control at all. The other one is about self-compassion, because we've touched on that a little bit as we've talked. It's something that we sort of tend to lack as we go along. And then 8 affirmation cards, 7 pre-printed, and one of them for you to write down whatever you like.
Awesome. Tell me a little bit about your services as a fertility mindset coach.
So I work one-on-one with women. I offer single sessions. I think my 6-session package is the most popular because women come in, we can fully go through everything that has happened up to this point on your journey. We talk about areas where you feel bring up tension, your relationship with your doctor, decisions about treatment. We do a lot of guided meditation work, a lot of visualization. I teach you lots of techniques for stress reduction, particularly like in the moment stress reduction. Like you picked up your phone and there's another pregnancy announcement and now you feel yourself spiraling. What can I do right now to bring my level back to normal so that I can get on with my day?
I wish I had that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, in a world where everything is triggering, you've got to know what to do, or else you just walk around constantly triggered, and that's not healthy. It doesn't feel good either. So a lot of focus on stress levels, but real actionable ways for you to maintain sort of a baseline stress level.
Got it. And how can they find you?
So you can find me on my website, which is www.lilyandbee, like the flower and the buzzing insect.com. And my email is just Becky@lilyandbeefertility.com. And I'm on Instagram, lilyandbeefertility. And those are probably the 3 best ways to get in touch.
Awesome. And I'll share that for sure in the show notes. Well, thank you so much, Becky. This was such an insightful conversation. So I thank you first and foremost for sharing your story and just being open with your journey, the expectations that you put for yourself, and also being a resource. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a great conversation. I mean, I love telling my story to the extent that other women can realize they're not alone. We're all over the place.
All over. It's a global thing, but yes. But thank you so much. And thank you everyone for tuning in to another episode of Inspired by Jacqueline. And I look forward to having you share and just subscribe and comment. And I'll see you in the next episode of Inspired by Jacqueline. Take care. Bye.